Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles. I'm excited. New pitch, new day,
new pitch,
new podcast
day.
Episode.
I mean, it's like 4 in the day for me. It's already pitch black outside.
Well, it's 11 here, so it's not.
Yeah, new day for you. Day's been around for me. I'm drinking a cup of coffee. It's a delicious Costco coffee, and I have a new pitch for you called the Comedown Machine.
The Comedown Machine.
Comedown Machine.
Now, okay, I was talking to you before the episode about what I thought
you
would do for this thing, because you told me that you would, the obvious is for the Comedown Machine that somebody coming off of addiction or something, right? So it's the spiraling downward from whatever high. But I assumed, because you're Charlie, that you would do something completely, almost unrelated. I think you would take it literally, is my guess. Like, there would be a literal machine that is the Comedown Machine, similar to how you did Automatic Love.
Atomic Love Machine.
Atomic Love Machine, that's what it was, not automatic. Atomic Love Machine, where you took it literally. I think you're also going to take the Comedown Machine literally. We're going to be in space. There's going to be a big machine. There's going to be crazy, wacky characters, and I think the Comedown Machine is going to be a machine that, literally brings people down. Okay. Like an elevator.
Yeah,
yes.
Well, that would be pretty good.
That would be.
If the Comedown Machine was like an elevator that went down into
some sort
the
of
center
gravity
of the Earth.
gun sort of thing.
Oh, okay. No, I was thinking like an elevator from Mars or whatever. But, no, I decided to go with the drug thing, but I took it in a way that I think is still, very much, for lack of a better wording, a Charles Long way. So, in the world of the Comedown Machine, there was this invention, right? The Comedown Machine, which is a device created by this crazy scientist guy that removes addiction. So at first, it was just installed in rehab clinics, right? And it basically just instantly gets rid of any addiction that you have,
Okay.
But as society, as people figured out that it worked, right? They stopped using it just on alcoholics and drug addicts and started using it on everybody, right? If you're a smoker, just go in the Comedown Machine. You don't want to smoke ever again. You drank a little too much, you go in the Comedown Machine. You eat too much junk food, you go in the Comedown Machine, right? And all this stuff.
Okay, so it's not just substance abuse. It's like any addiction.
It's anything.
Ooh.
Exactly. Like, you watch too much, reality TV,
I know
you
some
go
people
in the
that need that.
Comedown Machine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of very much loose in the idea of what an addiction is. And so this creates a society that is on the surface very utopian, almost like Star Trek-esque, right? The people they're all beautiful and they're all jacked and all this stuff because they're no longer addicted to sitting on their couch and eating junk food, so they go out and they work out and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And this beautiful utopian society is kind of stagnant, right? Because this whole show is about our ability as human beings to make bad choices and how our bad choices define us as people as much as our good choices,
Oh.
And so in this utopian society, nobody makes bad choices. And so there's not really any new art. There's not new, music, not new politics, right? And so there is one neighborhood in the city of LA, which is called the D-Gem Ghetto, right? Which is full of all the people who refuse to take on the Comedown Machine for whatever reason, right? And so we're going to get into some of those people, and then we'll get back into the main world, right? Our main character is Haley Eastwood Clark, a degenerate with nothing to lose. In this new enlightened world, Haley is a member of a dying breed. She knows the clock is ticking for her way of life, but she won't stop defending the junkies, freaks, and scumbags in the world from the unending mediocrity of a stagnant utopia, right? Haley Eastwood Clark. you know, and she's a drinker. She likes drugs. She likes gambling. She likes fighting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And her nickname is Eastwood because she kind of keeps the peace in this neighborhood. She's kind of the sheriff of this part of town. And so everyone kind of respects her because she's not the biggest, she's not the strongest, but she'll fuck you up, you know?
Yeah, she's Clint Eastwood.
One of the smartest people. Yeah, she's Clint Eastwood. Another one of our wacky characters is Arnold Duffink. He is a large, soft-spoken, soft-souled man with a weakness for the ponies.
What?
And after heavily investing, he's got a weakness for the ponies. Like, he's a gambling addict. He likes
okay. I've never heard that phrase before. Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought he just likes to ride ponies, you know? It's just his thing.
That would be funny. Maybe
goes to, like, supermarkets.
In
not
a
even, like,
later
real
episode.
ponies. Like, he goes to, like, the supermarkets and he rides those little horses they have outside.
Exactly. And they've been removed from all supermarkets because people found that kids were too addicted to them. And so there's only one left, and it's outside the supermarket in the Degen slum. Degen means degenerate slums, or Degen ghetto, or whatever you want to call it. And Arnold Duffink heavily invested his entire life savings into the alcohol and tobacco industries right before the Comedown Machine was invented. And so his entire life was ruined. He has no money. His family wants nothing to do with him. And he spends all of his time in the only bar in town. Literally all of the bars and bars in LA have been shut down, except for the Hard Knock Life bar, which is, is the bar that can be found in the Degen slum. And that's where he spends most of his time. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy. He's big. He's intimidating looking, but he doesn't really know how to fight. He's not a violent man. He just kind of wants to wallow in his self-pity and bet on horses with what little money he has, you know? And just wallow in his own, sadness. Our next character is Henri the Tender. He is a French expat who left Paris because he found it to be too snobby and too, full of itself. And he moved to LA and found that it was no different at all. But he's moved, and so he can't really move back.
Yeah.
He owns the last bar in the city, and it serves as a safe haven for the underworld movers and shakers of this new, quote-unquote, enlightened world. And so this is where most of our characters are going to spend their time, right? It's kind of it's the spot, that our characters will start their adventures, end their adventures, sort of, it's the, main hub for all this activity, right? And Henri is the bartender, and he's constantly talking with his thick French accent and making fun of the stupid Americans, right? But he is also, very thankful to be surrounded by the only down-to-earth people in the city, because they have to be down-to-earth, because they are literally just the last scumbags in the city. They're all bad people. And that will be, touched upon, because bad people is very relative to the society that they're in, obviously, and so while society calls them bad people, really they're just people who don't want to be told what to do, which I think we can all sort of empathize with. And so he loves the activity, even though he kind of pretends to not enjoy it, and he's like, oh, get out of here, Arnold, get out of here, Eastwood, all this stuff, but he really loves it. He loves all the hustle and bustle that these scumbags bring into his bar. Our next character is Lucy the Hammer. She is a very short, extraordinarily violent woman who refused to allow her mind and soul to be altered by the government. She has a very thick southern accent, and she is a conspiracy theorist who often uses two bell-peen hammers to enact her violent will onto those around her. She is a through and through, out and out bucking psycho. She's nuts. She likes hurting people and being hurt, and that's it. That's her addiction, and she is so attached to it that if she got the Comedown Machine to remove that, she's not even really sure what would be left,
Oh,
of
like
her
her whole personality.
That's who she is, and they want to take it away because it's not, it's not convenient for them. And she says, well, fuck you, and she gets moved to the D-Gen slums, and she kind of takes up with our cast of characters because, well, what else is she gonna do? She drinks, and she likes fighting, and the best place to get into fights, from her estimation, is a bar, because that's where drunken people do stupid shit, you know? And our last character, he's kind of our audience POV character. He's the most normal, in quotes, person. His name is Lionel. They call him the Cube, right? He is a rotund fellow who has spent his life following the rules and abstaining from vice. That is, until his parents deem his affection for his dog, Snuffly, the Great and Powerful, as an addiction to comfort. And after refusing to give him up and go into the Comedown Machine, he is forced to move to the D-Gen slum, where all the non-incorporated go, right? Mm-hmm. His name is Lionel, and they call him the Cube because he's a big fat guy, but he's a square, you know? And so they're like, oh, this guy's a square, he's such a square, oh my, this guy's not a square, he's a fucking cube, he's huge, you know? That sort of thing. And he's like kind of a sheepish and very internal, but he's been kicked out of his swanky, you know, nice apartment because he refused to give up his dog, right? Because his parents were like, you're addicted to this dog, you're addicted to the comfort it provides, you know? You have to be cold and emotionless, and you have to get into the Comedown Machine because that's how that's how we do it. You have to be successful by removing this thing from your life. And he says, no, fuck you. I'm standing up for myself for the first time in my life, and it goes fucking horribly wrong for him. He gets moved to the lowest of the low neighborhood in the city, and he takes up with this band of miscreants and criminals and violent fucking sociopaths, you know? And so that's our main cast of characters. Obviously, there'll be other characters who go in and pop in and out and all this stuff, but that's our main cast, you know? And they all have fun little nicknames, so it's easier to remember them, you know? Lionel's whatever. The
Leo.
Cube? Come on.
Oh, cute.
Da Fink? Whatever.
Da Fink. Da Fink's a great name.
Da Fink. I thought so too. I knew the word Fink. I didn't know what it meant, so I had to Google it. It just means somebody who's not nice to be around. But Da Fink with a D-A, I think is a great nickname.
That is.
Da Fink. Yeah. So episode 1, an introduction to the world of tomorrow, a world without vice, without sin, without addiction, a glimmering utopia that houses the world's best and brightest. The new world is one of opportunity and stagnation. Art, culture, politics, and philosophy are all at a standstill as people spend their time and energy on healthy habits like exercise, classical literature, and showing off their success. In the utopian city of LA sits the D-Gen ghetto, where all the people who refuse to be incorporated into this perfect society live. Hard Knock Life is the only bar left in LA that serves alcohol, and its steady clientele welcome a new member, the Cube. This is how the episode starts, you know, is with Lionel, you know, arriving at Hard Knock Life because he's like, fuck me, my life sucks, I need a drink. Oh,
yeah.
Right?
Maybe you could do it in the intro or something where his family, like, kicks him out. Or, like,
well,
the show starts, like, the bus shoves him off.
He, and also he gets to Hard Knock Life and he doesn't really understand the name because kind of music is seen as sort of an addiction to entertainment, and so he doesn't get the reference, and so he just knocks really hard on the door, and everybody's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Calm down. You fucking psycho. Just knock normally. It's just, don't worry about it. So he sits down, he's like this big, you know, he's a fancy lad. He walks in, he's got his little dog, his little Snuffles, the Great and Powerful, and he sits down at the bar and he asks for a drink, and everybody's kind of like giving him some eyes, like, oh, what the hell? Maybe two guys get up and they walk over to him, you know, and they are like, hey, fat boy, what's happening? Like, oh, you're in the wrong part of town. Maybe we'll give you you give us some money and we'll leave you alone, like all this stuff. And that's when Eastwood, like, picks her head up off the bar, slams her fist on the table and says, you know, buzz off, you two. Like, he's under my protection. This kid's fine. Leave him alone, right? Or you're gonna have to deal with me. And then Da Fink looks up at me. You know, that sort of thing. And so Eastwood walks over, she buys him a drink, you know, because she can obviously tell this is his first drink ever, and says, you know, what's your story? You know, what brings you to our humble area, our humble neighborhood, right? And that's when Lionel, you know, starts telling his tale of woe, and this is when we see, like, this sort of utopian society and all this stuff, and we see his parents kicking him out, and, like, the government coming and picking all of his stuff up and throwing it away into an incinerator. He gets one bag, right, and his dog, and he's forced to, you know, go into the neighborhood, and he's got this very sad story of, like, oh, I had everything, and now I have nothing, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, and all this stuff. And there's kind of a beat after he finishes telling his story, right? We do a flashback, and we flash forward into the present, right? He takes a drink of his whiskey, kind of makes a face because he's never had it before. He's like, this is fucking horrible. Christ, right? There's a beat. Everybody looks at him, and they all just start laughing because nobody has any sympathy for this guy whatsoever. It's like, you lived the first, like, 30 years of your life in absolute luxury, and you gave it up for a fucking dog. Like, and all of us have had so much harder lives, right? And everybody kind of goes through their backstories, not really in as much depth as the Cube. This is also the scene where he gets his nickname because everyone's kind of taking the piss out of him. But they're like, oh my god, my name's the Hammer. You know, I got kicked out of my apartment because I kept beating the fuck out of everybody. Like, all this stuff. You know, everybody goes through their backstories, and it's like, so don't expect any sympathy from us, boyo. Right? You're not gonna find it here. You want sympathy, you go back outside the D-Gen, right? This isn't the place for it. And Eastwood is kind of, she's, she joins in the ribbing a little bit, but she's also like, we should give this kid a chance, right? He needs to prove himself to the neighborhood, right? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a good old-fashioned fist fight for the whole neighborhood to see our newest member of our little family, right? And the Cube is like, what? What do you mean? He's like, well, this is what happens when somebody new comes in. There's a fight.
Yeah, we kick the shit out.
Watch them fight because, exactly, this is how people get to know you here, right? And so she calls up the Mammoth, right? Now, Mammoth is a gigantic fucking human being, like probably 6'7".
Oh, really? I thought with that name, he'd be a small
pounds.
dude with a, very, very slight person.
Yeah, exactly. You thought he'd be a little lad. The Mammoth. Yeah, he's a fucking huge guy, and she calls him up on the phone. It's like, hey, Mammoth, we just got we got some fresh meat for you. And he's like, oh, I'll be there, 6 o'clock tonight. I gotta finish kicking the shit out of this guy first, and then I'll be right with you, And Lionel is fucking shit scared because he's just been insulted, had his first drink of alcohol, so he's already kind of a little tipsy because he's had one sip of whiskey, and if you've ever had one sip of whiskey after never drinking anything ever, you kind of, ooh, right? And he's just been told he's about to have a fist fight with the scariest guy in the neighborhood. And so everybody's kind of like, oh, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. I mean, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. It's going to be bad, but it'll be funny for everybody else.
Yeah, as long as you don't die, you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be fine. A few missing teeth, broken orbital bone, right? Maybe a few cracked ribs. You'll live, right? Mostly. And Hammers is like, Hammers and DeFink decide, we're gonna help this guy out a little bit. Look at him, he's pissing himself, So they give him a little bit of fight training, right? DeFink's got the hands up, and he starts throwing punches, and obviously, Lionel's never thrown a punch in his entire life, and so it's pathetic, to say the very least. Everyone's kind of embarrassed watching him do it. The entire bar, watches him throw a punch, and they all just groan. You can see his little dog, put its paws over its eyes because it can't watch this pathetic thing happen. Hammers is like, here's what you do. You get him real close, you stab him really, 18 times in the chest, and then you run away. And Eastwood's like, no stabbing. This isn't gonna be There's not going to be any stabbing, all right? Just, show the kid how to throw a few punches, maybe block, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of get an introduction for all of our characters to see, like, get a little minute, get the audience used to them, right? And then 6 o'clock rolls around. The man myth is standing outside. He is everything they've said and more. He's fucking terrifying. He looks like a 1970s biker ate another 1970s biker. He's fucking enormous. And the cube walks out. He's shaking. He's terrified, right? The street lights all like direct towards them. You can see all of these people, men, women, children, all sticking their heads out of the apartments, all looking down. They start like chanting. They start like, there's a whole big thing, they start clapping and stomping their feet, right? And the fight begins, and it begins as quickly as it is over, right? Because the mammoth just fucking wallops him. He beats the shit out of him. Yeah. There is no winning. There's not going to be a surprise twist where actually he knows karate or whatever. He beats the fuck out of the cube, right? That's all that happens. It's really quite depressing. But after the mammoth is done, everybody's cheering. Mammoth puts his arms above his head. He's like, yeah, fuck yeah, woo. And then he picks up the cube, throws him on his shoulder, right? And he starts chanting, one of us, what? And so the cube has finally been embraced, by this community. They all take him to the bar and they get him liquored up, right? He is shit-faced. His face is covered in like warts and sores because he's got cuts and scrapes and bumps all over his body, right? But he's also getting liquored up. People are having fun with the dog, right? People are having a good time, right? And Cube finishes the night beaten, drunk, and happy for the first time in a while because he's been accepted by his new community of degenerates, junkies, scumbags, and freaks, right? And that's the end of the first episode. That's how we're doing it.
Nice.
And the rest of the show, this is kind of like a sitcom-esque. It's not really a comedy, but it's definitely funny. You're gonna have, like, the characters they'll all start the episode at the bar, right? They'll get something, like some sort of business opportunity or something like that. And they will, go about completing that business opportunity through various, let's just say, not professional means. And they'll finish the episode at the bar, and it's all about kind of community, right? The fact that, like, you have this very cold, stale, sterile utopia outside this neighborhood, but inside this neighborhood, it's very warm and comfortable, and it may not be clean, it may not be the safest, but people care about each other. It's very much a community, One of the ideas I have for an episode is the Hard Knock Life crew receives a one-time offer from a funeral director to loot the bodies of the rich if they're able to source an endangered parrot for a death scene. Now, a death scene is a thing in real life, but I would think it would become super popular in this weird, crazy society, in which they take a dead body and they prop it up into a scene that represents the person who died, This is a thing that they do in certain parts of South America, where they hire people to sort of construct a scene. So if somebody really likes motorcycles, they'll take the body and they'll prop it up and put it on a motorcycle or standing next to a motorcycle, right? With the helmet on and all this stuff. And it's kind of like a living statue, but dead, dead living statue. That makes sense. And that is a huge thing in the society. And so this funeral director has this huge client who just died, and his family really wants to highlight his fascination with exotic birds, right? And so they need this really rare and endangered parrot in order to complete the death scene. And so the funeral director, who has tried every legal means of acquiring this parrot, decides that, well, maybe I'll try a few illegal means, if you know what I mean. And so he sends a letter to Eastwood, who then she gets her whole crew together and decides to invite Cube, and she's able to acquire this parrot through, some nefarious dealings with some of her underworld contacts, and it's kind of like a standoff drug deal, if that makes sense, but it's for, like, a parrot.
Yeah.
And beer instead of, like, guns and money or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the Cube is absolutely shit scared. Everybody's like standing there and they've all got weapons, bats and guns and chains and stuff. And everybody's kind of very anxious. And they have the parrot turnover and they hand him a 6-pack of beer, right? Because alcohol is really hard to get. Or like, let's say a 24-pack because they don't make it anymore. So, alcohol is at a premium.
And maybe it's like to make it special. You could be like, some really nice old IPAs, and there's no IPAs anymore, so we can only make
nobody has IPAs
lager
anymore
or something easy to make.
We only make the easiest beer to make, and they make it in the basement of the Hard Knock Life.
Or it could be like
cafe.
some old like German beer. They're like,
like the monks made it until religion was outlawed because it was deemed as an addiction. And then all of the crew, they go back to the bar, the Hard Knock Life Cafe, and they start playing with the parrot. And they're like, you have to give the parrot up tomorrow, right? And everybody's kind of like, yeah, we know. We're not going to get attached, right? Almost immediately, they all get extremely attached to this parrot because it starts like cursing, And nobody curses in this utopian society. Like everybody in the slums curse, right? Because fucking shit, who gives a fuck, right? But in this utopian society, cursing is something that people just really don't do because it's deemed as a coping mechanism for bad behavior, and we've gotten rid of bad behavior, so you don't need to curse, And so they all get really attached to this parrot because it starts saying like fucking shit and fucking cunt and all this stuff, right? And so they decide that they're not going to give this parrot up because in order to create the death scene, they will have to kill and stuff the parrot. And they're like, no. So they decide to just spray paint a pigeon and give the pigeon to the funeral director instead. Funeral director doesn't really know the difference. And so the episode ends with our main cast of characters. They are just like having a ball digging through coffins of the extraordinarily wealthy, picking off rings and earrings and gold teeth and all this stuff, while the Cube and the funeral director are just standing kind of in horror, looking at these people just disrespecting the dead to a significant degree, right? They're like playing with them like they're fucking like marionette puppets and all this shit, and everybody's kind of like, ugh, fuck me. But our main, DeFink and Eastwood and Hammers and the Tender are more than happy to loot these dead bodies because they don't give a shit, right?
Damn.
That's I don't have very many more ideas, I have to say. If you have any ideas, now would be the time.
A question, because when you originally started saying the idea, I was kind of expecting it to go along the vein of they're like addicted to the Comedown Machine is like the joke. So I don't know if you want to show that at all, like people that are maybe like maybe people that are very high up in society, like the very top echelon, are still drinking and smoking and everything, but they just use the Comedown Machine constantly to get rid of their addiction.
That's a good idea.
And like clean up instantly.
That is a good idea. You have when we say that there's only one bar in LA that serves alcohol, in reality there are a ton of cocktail bars that are at the like tippy top of the echelon of society that we don't see typically. But maybe Lionel the Cube gets invited back home by his family after the season finale of season 1. He gets invited back home by his family, and they say, well, you've done it, you've lived your life, and we've decided that maybe we were wrong, maybe we were hasty, right, to kick you out, right? Maybe your dog isn't an addiction. So we're inviting you back home, right? And so Eastwood gets to go with him for some reason. We can come up with. And we get to see just the absolute hedonism that exists in the upper echelon of this society that is just completely, you know, they walk through a door, it's like a metal detector, and then it's the Comedown Machine, and then they're completely sober and completely like, oh, you know, nice to meet you, Todd.
Yeah.
Right? That sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and you can see, like, the very top people are just completely hypocritical about the whole thing. Like, they do all this stuff, and they're just abusing the Comedown Machine so that they can reap the, you know, the fun of the alcohol and drugs and whatever without suffering the consequences of it.
Yeah. I did think of that originally, and I do like the idea, or not originally. I did think about making it a bit of a class show, but I didn't really want to go. I feel like we've done some class stuff as of late, you know, with episode 230. It was a lot about classism, you know?
230.
So, yeah, it was
I don't know if
tower.
On the Edge of Memory had that much to do with class stuff.
There was class.
It was
class
corporate
is
espionage,
an element.
But it wasn't like a super like poor people versus the richer people show.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Yeah, but I like the idea of being like everyone is just a hypocrite in the Comedown Machine universe. You know.
Mm-hmm. At least you know there's like a cult of them at the top. You know, we don't have to make it so. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to.
Yeah, not everybody. There are tons of people who just exist in this sort of perfect state of boring civilization, you know? Mm-hmm. And then people at the top, the big, you know, guys who run everything and the guys who make the Comedown Machines, they're like, we can bend the rules a little bit. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We're us. We made the rules. Of course we can bend them.
Mm-hmm. You could also have like episodes about like trying to get like old... like it'd be cool if we could have like a guest appearance from like an old rock star, you know, like if we got, I don't know, we got Paul McCartney, you know, somebody Ringo.
Yes,
we get fucking Ringo in
we
an
could
episode.
100% get Ringo.
And
yeah, I'm pretty sure we could get Ringo for this podcast. Doesn't seem that hard.
But Ringo, like they go. I don't know. Maybe we have an episode where they're abroad or something. I don't know how they'd get to Ringo, but Ringo is still living. He's still living in luxury because he's so freaking wealthy. But he's definitely not. Yeah. You know, he's definitely not following the Comedown Machine logic. He's just you know having living his life up, drugs and drinking and
drugs and sex and alcohol and all this fun stuff. You know.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to get like an old. They're trying to get like a rare. Like vinyl print, and they find that there's only one guy that has one, and he's in England, and their plan is to rob his house, and they'll get in and be like, wait a second, who is the guy that owns this? And they'll realize, holy shit, this is fucking Ringo's house.
This is Ringo Starr. Fuck me. Christ. I also would love to see the like mirror degen slum in the heart of London. You know, because this is the degen slum will be very much like an American slum, and so you'll have like, it'll be like an American bar, right? But it would also be fun to go to the London one and you see it's like a pub, you know, it's like an old-fashioned pub and that sort of thing.
It'd be also funny to see like if what countries deemed was addictive behavior as different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there'd be very different things that are deemed as addictive in the UK or in France or something.
Yeah. Like football. Football is outlawed in the UK. It's been deemed an addiction.
He means soccer is what he means. But yes.
Yes. Football.
Maybe cigarettes are still allowed in France because they're like, well, it's not an addiction. That's just you know, part of us.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna outlaw my foot. You know, like what do you mean to do?
That would be funny. The Comedown Machine has truly not changed France at all because they are like, of course you can't outlaw cheating on your wife, wine, or cigarettes. You know, that's like 3/4 of our culture.
Yeah.
The fourth part is being smug. Get on it, French people. What are you gonna do? Fight me?
Yeah. Instead, the Comedown Machine's used on like things like work. Like if you're addicted to work, you go through the Comedown Machine.
Yeah, you're a workaholic, and it's like you need to take a 3-hour break. You know, right now. Okay. That would be funny. you went to Russia, and it's like, of course everybody still drinks vodka. What are you talking about?
It's our main national export. Like, how we're not gonna get rid of that,
dude. You go up to a water fountain. Water is the thing people are addicted to. They've outlawed water. You go to a water fountain, fucking vodka comes out, and they're like, "Ah, fuck me, this place is great." Yeah, I like it. I think there's a lot of comedic potential in the Comedown Machine. But I want to take it a little different way, you know? It's a bad addiction, but it's also about free will, man. It's about the choices we make.
It's about free will, man. Come on.
Yeah. And you all have free will, and we appreciate that you've said yes to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. So thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, has been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we will be here next week with a brand new televisual series for you to imagine and enjoy, which will be titled, pick a number.
Out of what?
1 through 5. 1 through 5.
1 through 5. 4.
4. Friend-in-law. That's the title.
Friend-in-law. You always give me the first
Yeah.
silly titles. Friend-in-law.
Yeah, I love it. I love a silly title. I think they're fun.
All right. Friend-in-law.
All right.
I don't know what the hell
Friend-in-law.
Friend-in-law.
Thank you all for listening, and please have a good day.